What's up, everybody? Welcome to Joe's Tavern. Belly up to the bar, have a drink, and join the conversation. Have a exciting, interesting, fun guest, a good buddy of mine, Tim Daniel. Get to him here in just a minute or two, but quickly. I'm blown away by the response to the first episode. This is a brand new channel. Obviously, I'm not exactly well known in a lot of circles or anything like that, but a lot more views than I was expecting. I picked up a handful of subscriptions, and I appreciate it. I mean, spread the word, give feedback. Again, even if it's bad feedback, I don't care. Tell me, tell me why I suck. Don't just stop listening to me. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Socials, there on my at Joe's Tavern Show on X, JoesTavernShow at gmail.com. So before we hit into the guest here, just want to hit a couple quick headlines about local sports here. Red Spring Training games start this weekend on Saturday. Split squad versus Cleveland and Milwaukee. I'm excited. I mean, anyone who knows me knows I love all sports, but baseball is by far and away my number one. Spring training, just the popping of the, I'm not an ASMR freak, but every spring, like every TV station, they'll just bring cameras there, no talking or anything. You just hear pitchers and catchers just throwing, and you just hear the pop of the glove of the catcher's mitt, and it's just the greatest thing. The grass looks so green. We're in the middle of one of the shittiest winters that I can ever remember here in the Queen City, and seeing all of the warmth and everyone like not wearing, not everyone's bundled up wearing big sweatshirts and hoodies and stuff like that. They're out there in short sleeves, and I need to be out in Arizona right now. So, that being said, I still don't think that this is a settled roster for the Reds. I still feel like there's another move of some consequence coming. I don't know if it's going to be Luis Robert. They're saying how everything's done. We'll talk about that with Tim a little bit. But I don't think that the 26-man is settled. I still think there's going to be some decent-sized move coming from the outside during spring training. So, quick notes about the Bengals. T is going to be tagged. They come out and release that, which makes sense. They need to lock him down with an extension. That's their plan. Are we confident they're going to do it? I don't know. They would end up with gigantic egg, with just an absolute shitload of egg on their face if Joe Burrow's come out and made so many statements. I think he's talked before media this offseason more than he's talked in his entire career combined. And it's all about keeping the guys together, keeping Trey, or extending Trey, keeping T, extending Jamar. We know Jamar is going to be extended. That's not really any concern. But it's going to look really bad if they aren't able to keep T with the amount of money that they have. You see the floor of this team. Their defense was terrible. Their offensive line was terrible as always. And they were a botched snap away, or pick the excuse, pick the reason that they lost one specific game away from being in the playoffs when everything else failed around them. So also came out that the salary cap is going to rise to 280, somewhere between 275 $285 million, a huge increase. I think it's 13% increase over last year's. Bengals will have over $100 million of cap space to get everyone taken care of. Extending Jamar and extending Trey, their cap hit for 2025 is pretty much already set in stone. So that just extending those guys isn't going to raise their salary cap, their numbers for the salary cap at all. Which again leaves $100 million for everybody else, whether it's $35 million for T, offensive guards, defensive line. There's money to take care of everybody. They only have 6 draft picks, so they need to do more work in free agency than normal. But are we confident they're going to do that? I can't say for sure that I am. Lastly, here talking about Cincinnati Bearcats, their basketball season is finished. They lost to West Virginia last night, 62-59. They have one quad one victory with 5 games remaining. They can't clinch things. They were up 47-41 with 7.5 minutes left, 6-point lead. And they went on a 7-minute stretch where they didn't score any points. They scored 6 points in 7.5 minutes. It wasn't until the last 4 seconds Dan Skillings hit 2 miraculous threes that even made it a close game. they're done. NIT, yippee. I don't think anybody cares. There's a big conversation needs to be like, what's the future of UC basketball going forward with Wes Miller? Is he the guy? He's done a great job with recruiting, but is he the guy that's going to actually lead them back to the tournament? This is 6 straight years for the Bearcats team and the fan base that still thinks that they're an elite program. They're my favorite team, but they're not an elite program. They're not a blue blood. They're behind. They're maybe a top 50 program right now. We need to figure out if Wes can do that. Can bring them, just make a tournament for, and then we'll talk about getting into the blue bloods, which they only were for 5 years in the early 90s. Let's be honest. So, lastly, UC baseball ranked for the first time in school history over a convincing 2-1 series win over Duke, who was ranked 11 going into the series. Won the first game 8-3, lost the second 6-5 on a walk-off home run in the 12th inning, and then absolutely annihilated them 19-5 in the rubber match. For those of you that haven't watched them, Jordan Bischel's their coach. They play a chaotic brand of baseball. They bunt a lot, and I'm not a huge, at least when it comes to major leagues, I'm not a huge fan of bunt because it's giving away outs. But they had 6 bunt singles. They had 3 sacrifice bunts and 3 suicide squeezes. I think they were 10 of 11 on the base paths and stolen bases, and just play a very chaotic brand of ball that's hard to it's hard to game plan for. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. They go to Las Vegas to play a 4-game set over this weekend. I don't know. I'm excited. Again, as a baseball fan, as a UC fan, I'm going to have to get down there to watch some games in Clifton. So it's UC is a baseball school now, no longer a basketball, no longer a football school. That still makes me sad, but we'll get over it. All right. Now's the time for my guest, my good friend, the do-everything host for the Riverfront, fan of bourbon, which I appreciate, my good friend, Tim Daniel. Welcome.
Hey, buddy.
Happy to have you join me at Joe's Tavern. Wish this were recording this in the afternoon. Wish you were a little later so we could have a nice bourbon or something frosty and cold. But I've got my smoothie.
Yeah, I'm doing a nice solid cherry Coke Zero. It's kind of like my go-to soda nowadays. So
never been a cherry Coke fan. I like Coke Zero, but I've never been able to do cherry Coke.
Oh,
it's
man.
Weird.
I love it.
I love cherry and I love cherry flavoring. So anyway, you have spent a long time covering sports.
Yes.
For a variety of different teams all around the Midwest. How did you get your start in sports? Was it something that you went to school for, or just something just because it's a passion?
Because it's a passion. So I'll never forget the day I got started in podcasting was, of all places, I was sitting at a local Hooters establishment, and my buddy was like, "Hey man, I got this offer to do like watching a WWE pay-per-view." And a buddy of mine at the time is like, "Hey man, I got this offer to do this MMA show. And they want someone to sing calls. Would you be down?" I was like, "Know nothing about it, but sure." So yeah, I worked on this. I produced this MMA show called MMA Gospel for about 4 or 5 months, and they sometimes let me talk. And I didn't know anything about MMA at the time. I got pretty heavy into it there for about a year, and then got burnt out of it within a year, and still not a fan. Yeah, that was kind of where I got started. And then from there, I started my own show covering pro wrestling and mixed martial arts. And I was like, did that for about 2 years. And I was like, this is fun. I was like, but, I really want to get into covering actual team environments and things like that. So the new ND Nation came around and in 2011 and started covering the Irish, which was really, really cool for me. And from there, did that for a while. Went to cover the NBA for 48 Minutes Basketball Network, which was my baby. I started. And from there, I ended up at the Riverfront and now covering the Cavs for the Block the Shot the Stop. So still involved, having a lot more fun nowadays than I was then because the teams weren't very fun to watch. But yeah, the Cavs and the Notre Dame definitely made my sports heart happy this year. So
Yeah, I'll ask you here about the Cavs here in just a second, but how many different teams have you covered in your career? I know you covered pretty much everybody locally.
Yeah, so Notre Dame was my first. Then Northern Kentucky was my first basketball full-time credential. That led to Xavier. Xavier led to Cincinnati. I was covering all three of those schools together in 2020. And I was basically like, this is right before my wife and I started dating. So I was, at arenas 3 or 4 nights a week, and really loved it, but just got to the point where it just wasn't sustainable anymore. So I covered them, covered the Red Hawks for a little bit before we brought on our guys to do that, which they've saved my life. Shout out Jack and Ted. Those guys are awesome.
Jack does a fan like they do a great job, incredibly in depth job.
Yeah, for sure. They just had Travis Steele on last week, and that was really cool. So what's that at 5? Are we at now? So the Reds, the Bengals. I've had like multiple different things where I've covered the Bengals over the years. And then now the Cavs. So about 7 or 8 teams.
That's a lot. You picked a hell of a year to begin Cavs coverage. Right as of now, I mean, it's getting out of the All-Star break, 44-10 and tied for the best record in the league with OKC. No one knows that any year is going to be special, but did you have any indication that this year? I mean, they were solid. They were a good team. They have some really good players, but no one expected the start that they had. I mean, they just went on a run just from the first tip off.
Yeah, I thought they'd be really good. I thought they'd be like a home court advantage team in the playoffs in the first round. I thought they'd be like a top 4 seed in the East. Potentially having the 2 or 3 seed, because I thought the Celtics were just gonna pick up where they left off last year. But I did not expect 44-10 by any means. I don't think any of us did. We thought they'd be really good. We kind of saw the pieces come together. Once they moved on from JB Bickerstaff and brought in Kenny Atkinson, I thought Kenny was just the perfect coaching hire. And it's starting to show that was right, just because he's found this ability to kind of make them play so selfless and become really good on offense while not forgetting their defensive principles that they have at JB. Pretty similar to when Steve Kerr took over from Mark Jackson in Golden State. So no, to answer your question shortly, no, I did not think they'd be as good as they are. I thought they'd be really good, but I did not think we'd be talking about them potentially winning the championship this year.
I mean, they have a 5.5 game lead over the defending champs right now, just for the number 1 seed. It's obviously there's still 54, 30,
about 27, 28 games left. Yeah.
Yeah. 30 games remaining. So it's still a long way to go, but that's a hell of a nice cushion to have going forward. They're winning on home. They're winning at home. I mean, they're 25-4 at home and still a solid 19-6 on the road. So,
dude, and the thing is, like, they literally have had 2 times this year where an individual player has played over 35 minutes. That's it.
Jeez.
Yeah. So they got the rotations figured out. I'm genuinely curious to see what it's going to look like when they shorten the rotation for the playoffs, because there's a lot of guys vying for minutes that certainly deserve minutes in the postseason. But for the time being, man, everything's really fun to watch, and they're great. And it's been a joy. I'm actually going to be up there in a couple weeks for the Portland game to see them play. So
that should be a fun time. I wish I had more time to watch NBA. I had no idea that they had their rotations like that. Do they just play that many players? Is that what it is? Or, I mean, because it's not as if they're lacking studs.
They do, man. They play about 9-10 guys. And it's cool because, we're kind of taking into account they have had injuries this year. So Isaac Okoro's been out a lot. Dean Wade's been out a lot. Max Strus missed the first 30 games of the year. So it's not like it's, they've definitely battled some injuries. They've relied on guys like Jalen Tyson, their rookie this year out of California, who is just like a winning player. He's just like your all energy guy. Super athletic, super aggressive, pretty raw. Guys like Craig Porter Jr., who obviously from your time around UC, you remember from Wichita State. Really physical, really athletic defensive guard. Tristan Thompson has probably played more minutes than they'd like for him to play. But they just yesterday picked up Devontae Green of the buyout candidate from New Orleans, who it's like a 3-level defender. So I'm really curious, man, because they do play a lot of guys and they do a great job. They're very efficient with their minutes. Donovan Mitchell has really become his numbers are down. This is probably the best he's ever looked.
Well, at a point, it's not all about scoring. It's about being able to facilitate and being able to. I mean, that's what the great ones do is they raise the play of the players around them.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's only 28. I'm looking at. I swear he's been around longer than 7 years. I mean, Tristan Thompson is
32
in year 13. He's 33. Yeah, and he turns 34 here next month. I could have sworn those two were within a couple years of each other.
Feels like
How long has he been with Cleveland? This is year 3.
Mitchell. Yeah. This is third.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
First year they lost to the Knicks. Last year they beat Orlando in 7 and lost to Boston. He got hurt and missed the last 2 or 3 games of the series. I was actually at one of those games, which that sucked. Getting up there and just realizing Mitchell's not playing as a game time decision. But yeah,
in the playoffs, no less.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully it's different this year. It certainly seems like things are heading that way.
What do you say is the best moment you've had covering a game as media?
Man. Okay. I'll give you best and worst because worst is like an amazing story. And I think I've told you the story. But so best was my first time I ever covered at Notre Dame. It was Notre Dame USC night game. And to put in context of when this was, Juju Smith-Schuster was still at USC. DeJon Kaiser was the quarterback of Notre Dame. And Notre Dame beats USC at night. And so this is also the same day of Michigan State when Michigan State wins because Michigan fumbles the punt.
Yep.
So it's the same exact day as that because we were in the press box watching it. And so how it works, when you cover football, last 5 minutes of the game, you go down to the field so you can get to the presser quicker. I made a wrong turn and went to the wrong side of Notre Dame Stadium. So I'm standing in the end zone of Notre Dame USC at night, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, holy crap. Like, yeah, I was like, best wrong turn I ever made. And I'm just sitting there like, what did I do right? Like, how did I make this happen? And so the game ends, Notre Dame wins. Awesome. Great. I'm like realizing I gotta get to the side to get to the tunnel. So I go to the security guard. I go, sir, do you want me to go down the sideline? He's like, are you media? I said, yes, sir, I am. Here's my credential. He goes, walk to the field. So again, Notre Dame Stadium, like the mecca of college football to some people, myself included. I just looked there, like walked down the field. They just beat USC, like one of the craziest rivalries in college football for the sake of there's not like a geographically close rivalry.
Yeah.
And I just stand there and I go to the 50-yard line. I stand there and I just look around and I take it all in. I was like, all right, this is what I want to do with my life. So, and as I'm like heading towards the tunnel, because, you always see the infamous slap the sign. The press room is right next to where the stairs are.
Okay.
And so the players are running by me. Brian Kelly runs right by me with his security guards. And I just go and sit down. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know how I'm going to top this in my life. That was pretty cool. Worst is cool, but not cool because it was my first time I got to work the Big East tournament was 2020. And so I was in Madison Square Garden the night Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID and the world shut down. Xavier played DePaul that night. It was the first night of the Big East tournament because they were one of the lower seeds. It was the second game of a doubleheader. The first game, pretty cool, Madison Square Garden. I'm covering a St. John's Georgetown game.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. But that part was neat. And then as like the news is coming out of everything happening in the world, you're like, well, am I going to live in New York for a couple months? Thankfully I didn't. I just got lucky that I got out the day I did. But yeah, man, it was like an awesome experience to be at the Garden, but also extremely scary when you're walking through Times Square and it's quiet.
I don't doubt that one bit. It was such a weird, and I was talking that with my son yesterday brought up Rudy Gobert about something and talked about him licking, like doing all the dumb shit that he did with the microphone. And then he's the first one to test positive. And it was just such a weird, surreal time. Like just even going to a store, and we'll talk about this in decades to come, talking to grandkids.
Yeah.
But sports world shutting down was like, well, crap, now what? It's one thing if you're stuck at home with, but at least there's something on. But when there's no sports and there's absolutely nothing else going, like, it sucks.
Dude, I was watching people play 2K, like getting into it.
I played a lot. That was that's when I bought a PlayStation 4 because I hadn't had a video game console for years. Obviously Cam had one, but they were up in his room, and I'm not going up to my son's room to go play video games. That's a little that's a little too much, but they got me back into playing some video games again. I had a moment that I wasn't even covering a game. It was, so my wife's uncle is the editor and author of Blue Ribbon College Yearbook. He was covering as a pool reporter the first round of NCAA games up in Dayton in 2009. His alma mater was East Tennessee State, and they were the 16 seed. They lost.
Yeah.
He was able to procure the student reporters' press credentials, and I got to use them just to be there. And I was right behind the scorers, just to be there, sitting in press row, watching games I didn't care about. Louisville played, Pitt played. I think Louisville played Siena. One of them played Siena, and then I think OK State was the other. What was the other team that year? But I'm in the press conference room. I'm listening to Rick Pitino at the microphone, running through the tunnel right behind Louisville's mascot, like in between halftime. Just one of like the weirdest, most surreal. I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm not even. I think this was before. I mean, I was way back when. I mean, I was 29, but like I'm not even covering this. This is just I'm writing the shuttle from the Marriott there across river on UD's campus over to UD Arena, and Bob Ryan, who I've been watching for years and years on sports reporters, and on whatever goofy ass debate shows that he was on for ESPN, and Bob Valvano, and all these guys. Like, I know, I'm like, I need to get in this somehow. Like, I went to school for broadcasting, and didn't get my degree or anything, but this is something covering sports is something that like I've wanted to do forever, and like that's like, this is cool as hell. Dude, I need to find a way to get into this.
So, as you know, because you know me personally, Penny Hardaway is my all-time favorite basketball player. And when UC was in the AAC, Memphis would come to Cincinnati. I got to sit in Penny Hardaway's press conferences, and I was like, "Holy crap! This is like, my first Xavier game I ever did. They played Georgetown, and it was when Pat Ewing was the coach. So I'm sitting at a press conference in the front row at the press room of the Cintas Center, and Patrick Ewing walks right by me and sits down, and I'm like, well, this is cool. I got to ask Pat Ewing and Penny Hardaway questions as for like work. So
did you ever think of yourself like, am I a poser? Like, what am I doing here?
All the time. Still do. Yeah. For sure have imposter syndrome when I'm like when I was being in those rooms. Yeah.
Like, I know I'm allowed to be here, but should I be here?
Right. Yeah, for sure, dude. For sure.
I do have this. What's your best moment as a fan, either in person or just watching it on TV?
I was at the Bengals Raiders playoff game. I was at the game it ended. The curse ended. The curse of Bo. I was hugging strangers. I was crying. I was smoking cigars inside the stadium. It's a night I literally will never ever forget, man. It was just unreal. And then basketball wise, do you remember the Charleston Classic in 19? Xavier played UConn. They had the double overtime game.
Only that it happened. I wouldn't have known that it was 2019, but I do know that it happened.
Yeah, I was underneath the basket. That's where they placed me as a media member that night. So I'm just sitting there like, this is pretty cool. I was right next to UConn's bench, so I could hear Dan Hurley like in his it made me really like him. I know a lot of people don't like him.
I love him, and it has nothing to do with him being a Bengals fan.
Same.
It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, and he talked to me after the game in his presser, and like didn't, even though they lost, was like really really professional with me. It was awesome. Yeah, so that was like my best basketball moment. Being at the Bengals game when they beat the Raiders, and then Reds wise, I was at Homer Bailey's no-hitter in Cincinnati against the Giants.
That was the one in 2013. Mm-hmm. I was at Riverbend. That was in my chauffeuring days, and I was driving. Holy smokes! Totally spaced out on Journey. So I was there, like parked by the stage. I was and backstage for part of it, tracking the game on my phone during the middle of a Journey concert when he threw the no-hitter.
I still think it should have been a perfect game. That ball four that he got at the walk-on, which obviously led to the infamous moment. One of the greatest TV moments of all time.
So let me ask, that or Ricky Karcher?
Ooh, I think I got to go Homer because I was there.
Okay, but you didn't get to see it though.
No, but word spread so fast that
okay.
So like I remember, we just stayed in the stadium because we were like, what the hell just happened? Now we're not used to it like this as Reds fans. And
good things don't happen to us.
Yeah, me and my buddies are celebrating when like Frazier fielded the ground ball for the last out. I felt like it took 10 minutes. Then also, mind you, this is like 12 years ago, so no hitters weren't as common as they are now.
Yeah.
And so like when he throws the ball across the Diamond Nevada, like it felt like forever, man. But yeah, it was really cool. It was a really cool thing to experience. I also was at Jake Arrieta's no hitter here, but that one was not as cool to experience.
No, that would not be cool. I've never witnessed any kind of. I was one strike away or one out away from seeing a perfect game when I was 7.
Yeah, I remember you talking before. Yeah.
Yeah, true creature Ron Robinson. But outside of that, no, just a lot of pain and anger. I was at Bengals playoff games where Carson Palmer blew his knee out. That was we were sitting in the end zone where that happened.
Same.
And at the 2013 season when they lost, where they completely just fell apart in the second half against San Diego.
I wasn't at that one. I was at the Vontaze Burfict meltdown.
Okay.
Yeah.
The most infamous meltdown, but I was, and the worst part was, again, this was when I was chauffeuring. I was driving the Spanos family.
Ooh.
So I'm, driving. We drove pick up Mike McCoy and the Spanos. We had multiple cars, and then I'm driving the Spanoses from Paul Brown straight to their private jet after they won a game where they're going straight to San Diego to where it wasn't December in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I watched the game in the stands. I found friends of mine that had tickets, but and they had to know that I was just heartbroken. I think I was, complimented like, hey, congratulations, have a safe flight back. Also, fuck off. That hurt. All right, now your primary, What's Cavaliers your primary, or is it still Red? How do you rank them?
That's a great question. I guess the Cavs are technically primary because I do them the most because we do it after every game. Where do I get the most attention is my Reds work. Which is obviously makes sense for the affiliation I work for.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
You also do a little Bengals work and in a cool show. What is it? Jungle Fever?
Yeah.
Jungle Boogie?
Jungle Boogie. Yeah. That's
that's what it is. Okay, it's cool. Cool name show. Someone did a great job coming up with that.
They did. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And then he just stopped doing them.
Life happens.
Anyway, on a quick Reds conversation here. How do you think the roster is going to shake out? And again, I don't know if listen at the top. Do you think there are any more moves to come?
I do. Just because right now, if you look at it, their second best right-handed hitting outfielder is Stuart Fairchild. And no offense to Stuart Fairchild, but that's not going to be something that's suitable. So I just actually talked about this. I recorded the Riverfront Red Show earlier today and with Jack Mueller. And we were just talking about like the only chance they have to get in the playoffs is probably winning the Central. Yeah. The NL wildcard teams are, the NL East alone, those 3 teams, that's probably 2 of them. And then the NL West, whoever's second to the Dodgers, but whether it's like
gotta be the Diamondbacks. Padres have taken a step back. Diamondbacks they're loading up.
Yeah, they are. And then in the Central, thankfully, no one else besides. The Cubs have done a good job getting good.
They made
players.
some moves. Yeah,
getting guys like Kyle Tucker obviously helps.
But they brought in the best player. Like they had the best single acquisition.
Correct. Yeah. I don't know. I might argue Francona on that, but
we'll say on the field.
Yeah, but I think that that's gonna be their best chance to do it, and I think they certainly can, man. I think that this, I was obviously frustrated, like everyone was, that the first few months of the offseason they kind of just stood pat. But I thought this kind of thing they've done here at the last few weeks with guys like Tanner Rogers, as much as I don't like him as a person, Austin Hayes.
Same.
I really like the Jose Trevino move as a backup catcher. I think he's like a really, really nice fit for Stevenson.
Absolutely.
I think this is going to be a good team, man. I think like we talked about today, 79.5 wins, I think is really low. And that number just went up. It was 78.5 as of last week. So
it's weird seeing the projection systems because they're more pessimistic by nature, like the projections. Between 71 and I think the high end was 78 wins was all the projections. And I think it was Pacoda that had him at 71 and 91.
Yeah,
I look at it this way.
McLean and Strand didn't play last year. They had what combined between the two of them, 100 at bats.
Yeah. I look at it. Last year was a shit show.
It was awful. Only
Hunter Green and Ellie actually lived up to expectations. So many injuries. Again, the starters that they were having to run out there, because of injuries, because Lodolo just can't stay on the bump. Everything went wrong pretty much, and they were 77 and 85.
Yeah.
So they went out and they improved their depth. Their outfield is still terrible. Like there's no way around that. I think TJ Friedel is more like the guy he was last year. Now, granted, he was hurt, came back, from the wrist injury, but that's more what you're going to expect from him than 2023. 2023 is his career year, and I think it's going to be an outlier. I think he's a decent player. I think he's a really good defender, but they have completely raised the floor on this team by bringing in Brady Singer, bringing in all the guys on in the bullpen. Bullpen is still projected to be one of the worst, which I don't buy that. The bullpen was surprisingly good last year, and they upgraded.
Yeah. That's with Alexis Diaz really being bad from April through July, and then August and September being awesome.
Yeah. Here's my hot take. Douglas Graham Ashcraft will be the closer by June 1st.
Is that a hot take if you've been saying that for like 3 years?
But I'm putting a specific. I do like the people who are acknowledging that I was right. So we know our good buddy Nate is all aboard the Graham, and I've spoken with him several times. He's a good guy. Like he's a bulldog. He's a really nice guy. He works hard. And I guess he's worked and picked up a curveball in the offseason, but he can't get through the third, can't get to the order of the third time. He's probably 7th or 8th in the pecking order for starting. And I think he's going to be a dominant reliever.
Yeah, he's going to be, he's a major league pitcher. That's kind of the conversation we had last year about Brandon Williamson. We were having the same conversation of where does he fit in? Unfortunately, this year he doesn't, which sucks.
Yeah.
He's certainly a major league pitcher. So you have to find a role for a major league pitcher on a major league team. And at this point, you're right. Nick Martinez, Nick Lodolo, Rhett Lauder, Chase Burns. That's not even mentioning Hunter Green,
Abbott.
or Andrew Abbott or Brady Singer.
Yep.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I really like, but to kind of go against your point, I'm really high on Alexis Diaz this year. I think that what we saw at the end of the year last year is going to pick up because if you remember from his All-Star year, he really struggled, and that led into 2024. I think what we saw at the end of 24 is going to be pretty decent. And dude, he's like plus 1,700 odds right now to win National League Reliever of the Year. I think that's a decent bet.
I've just never bought fully into him. He's got an amazing slider, but that relies on him being able to spot his fastball, and he does not have great command.
Yeah,
and if he can't locate that fastball, and it's not even about getting swings and misses, it's about just getting the strike zone so that they have to respect that, and then the slider, the wipeout slider is effective. It's the same reason. It's the same problem with Fernando Cruz when he couldn't throw his fastball for a strike. No one's swinging at that splitter because they know it's coming.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I think I'm just a little bit more, and obviously, everyone knows how I feel about the term closer and how I think it's so stupid.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Tony La Russa and Dennis Eckersley for that.
Yeah. If he makes sense. Him, Mariano Rivera, Aroldis Chapman as prime. Those guys make sense. But big picture, yeah, it's really dumb. It's a really, really dumb thing.
It's in an 8-5 game, you have 3 outs to get. Do you really need to bring in your best
Right.
arm to get those 3 outs without giving up 3 runs. That's what I hate. Like, don't use him in the 5th inning or the 6th inning when it's a 1-run game and you've got runners on 2nd and 3rd. Like, bring in that guy that's going to absolutely throw flames and strand the runners. Like, that's the most important out is the next one. Yeah. So that's I hate, and the team started to go away from it and use more of the fireman type reliever, but I think it's stopped. I think it's kind of gone back to just the traditional closer, which I absolutely hate it. It's just a waste of if he's your best pitcher, then why? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a question I often got from when I was in my single days and taking girls to baseball games. Well, if he's their best pitcher, why is he only coming for the end? I can't answer.
Yeah, that's a question.
Yeah.
Andrew Rabbit, is he going to be in major leagues or is he going to be in Louisville? And I ask this because Mark Sheldon has him out of the rotation. Now, granted, he's got a little setback. Lauder's got a little bit of a setback. Sheldon had Lauder in the rotation over Abbott. And the reason I take note of that is that Sheldon's a team employee, and he's got the closest relationship with the front office. So is this based on conversations he's heard, or I don't think he's just throwing that out there as a hot take.
I don't know. This is the same guy that also wrote an article this year basically suggesting Ellie De La Cruz should be the full-time third baseman. So
true.
I have a hard time seeing him not be on the team, right? I know he's not the most talented guy in the group, but he is, you kind of mentioned the bulldog mentality.
Yeah.
He's definitely reliable. You can definitely count on him getting the ball. So, and it goes back to the conversation. He's too good to be a AAA pitcher. And I don't see a situation where, I think Nick Martinez goes to the bullpen before Andrew Abbott is pitching in Louisville.
The Reds have, for a weird, have a lot of left-hand starting options. Well, a lot. They've got Abbott, Miley, Lodolo. I'm excited to see what Miley can do when he comes back.
Yeah, I listened to Hunter Green on Jim Day's pod the other day, and they were talking about how excited they are that he's back in the clubhouse.
He just seems like an awesome guy. Especially, he seems like the perfect guy to be with Abbott because they're similar type, just bulldogs, nothing overpowering, but they change speeds, they spot, they work fast.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not gonna hurt anything by having him beside. And I'm just looking at it as, are you really keeping Rhett Lauder in the minors when he looks the part in the minors? He came up and he pitched absolutely lights out. It was only six starts, but got like a 1-point-something ERA and looks like he belongs. And you're always sending him back down. And obviously the Martinez is not going to be in the bullpen at $21 million. I maybe wait for Lodolo's inevitable IL start stint, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a good problem to have. You're not relying
for sure
on the Carson Spires and the Lyon Richardsons and the world in that case. So
no Brett Kennedy.
Yeah, no Brett Kennedy.
There are so many names. Just over 2023, how many guys that started games, and you're like, I don't remember this guy. I listened to or watched all 162 games, and I mean that's our thing. Obscure former Reds, and usually it's 5-6 years the guys go into obscurity. This was 18 months ago, and I have no idea who the hell this guy is.
Yeah, I laughed a lot about, there was that stretch where it was the bullpen revolving door is what I called it, where guys would get called up, they'd pitch an inning, get DFA'd, no one would pick them up on waivers, they'd be back in Louisville.
Right.
There was a 5 or 6 day stretch where they had a different guy in that circumstance.
Yeah.
And it was so stupid. But I feel like now bringing in the Tanner Rogers of the world certainly makes that a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for the bullpen, man. I think it's gonna be really fun.
I felt bad for the clubhouse guys because you've got to get all of the names and all the lettering on it, and you've got to have it on several jerseys just in case they're around for a couple days. That had to be frustrating.
Oh my god! Get the measurements and yeah,
throw the number on and he's gone, and he might be back in 15 days after he passed through waivers and then comes back to Louisville and then has to come back up because they've got no one else.
Yeah, basically.
So, under the radar player of importance for this coming season.
Ooh, there's a lot of them to me. Man, that's a really tough one. I think I don't know. Can I say Emilio Pagan?
Yeah,
Because I feel like
he's kind of gotten lost a little bit.
yeah, people have really forgotten about him, and I think if this bullpen's going to live up to the expectations that you and I are talking about right now, one, he's got to be healthy,
For
and
sure.
two, I mean, he's going to have to figure out find a way to be part of this team, and they're going to need him. How about Jacob Junis, by the way, turning down the Reds offer and signing for like nothing with the Guardians?
Yeah. I liked him.
I did too.
He came in and pitched really well. I mean, and he was pretty much just a throw in, and he and Joey Wiemer, who's already gone,
Has anyone left from that trade?
No, Montas is now injured and going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks with the Mets. Junis is in
Cleveland.
Cleveland, and where did Wiemer go?
He was in the Jonathan India trade.
That's right.
Yeah.
I knew he was in one of the trades, and I couldn't remember which one. The Reds were so surprisingly active. I have to go with, and it's surprised that he's under the radar, but Jeimer Candelario. If he's healthy, and last year again, like I'm willing to not forgive terrible seasons, but kind of just set them aside if there are injuries. Like I'm not taking anything away from Christian Encarnacion Strand's 6 weeks that he played, if it was even that long. Was it just a slump that he'd break out of, or was it because of injuries? I mean, he broke his hand at the end of 2023. And I'm not going to hold Jeimer Candelario's season against him. And it wasn't even a terrible season if you look at the numbers, but he had a foot problem and just wasn't able to move. I mean, watching him play infield was just awful because he just couldn't move. I think he's going to have a sneaky solid season. We forget that everyone loves Nick Castellanos, which for the life of me, I don't understand. But Castellanos was awful in his first year. And it wasn't until the second year when he had a nice solid season. And I think we're going to see the same out of Candelario. Totally different players, but I mean, he's not going to hit 320 or anything like that, but I can see 270 with a 325 on base percentage. And if he can slug, over 400, like 25 home runs, 25 doubles, like that's a solid season to me. And if he can actually play third base, I don't know what they're going to do there. It's weird that they have no idea who's playing third base for them. I know they're going to try Lux. Hopefully not Spencer Steer, because we love Spencer Steer. He plays his ass off, but he's a butcher out there at pretty much any position, but much worse in the infield.
Yeah.
And I know they're working Encarnacion Strand at third base again. So it'd be weird how it shakes out.
Yeah, I can see it. I kind of had the prediction. I don't think he'll be on the team come the All-Star break, being Candelario. So we shall see.
And if he can get flipped and get something in return, like that works too. Not that the Reds are going to put that money towards anyone, but maybe they could flip it in a multi-team deal to get Luis Robert. I'm all for that. All right, final question. Record prediction.
I think I went and said 86 and 76, I think is what I went with, which might actually win the Central. So
I have their floor at 75, ceiling at 89, in that range. So if you average out the two, I'm going to say, what is that, 82 and 60? Or no, 82 and 60. Or yeah, 82 and 60. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I would love to be wrong. And again, like someone steps up, if McLean plays like the guy that we think he will be, that's going to be huge. If somebody in the outfield can do something, I don't know what to expect from Austin Hayes. I would assume more 23 than 24, but there's definitely upside there. So
yeah,
I'm not being my overly negative self, but I'm trying to temper. Real quick question here before we pivot. Do you think the Bengals are going to shit the bed this offseason?
No.
Do you feel they're going to keep and extend everybody?
Yep.
Okay.
I do, because the Joe Burrow pressure is a real thing. And if you piss him off, then this whole thing goes awry. So
Yeah, I don't think they want to relive Carson Palmer. I think that I think they will sign everybody. It's funny seeing the reactions on social media, and social media is terrible, but it's also funny to watch everyone's comments and even on I guess the Bengals have been the hot topic on the talking head shows on ESPN, and of course they have these outdated takes from 2005. And granted, Bengals are one of the worst run NFL franchises.
Yeah.
No argument there, but their opinions and their takes just make no sense that the Bengals are cheap. Bengals have twice made their starting quarterback the highest paid player in the league. They have reset the market for wide receivers several times with AJ Green, with Chad Johnson. Jamar Chase is getting paid. T. Higgins is at the very least making $26 million because he'll end up playing on the tag if he has to, but I really think they're going to extend him.
I do too.
Again, the Bengals aren't the Chiefs. They're not as well run as a lot of other teams out there as the Ravens, but I think they'll get this done. They have too much money not to, and again, you don't want to hang Joe Burrow out there and put him into potential Carson Palmer territory. So it'll be interesting. I just want it done with because it just takes so damn long for the NFL offseason.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's too much talking at some point. It's like, let's just get to it.
Right, exactly. Anyway, done with the boring stuff here. We are going to talk about Disney and Disney World. We are both, I think we could comfortably say we're both Disney adults, right?
Yeah. I mean, for sure.
What's that?
I said for sure.
Yeah. I'd only been to Disney once in my life on my honeymoon, my wife's honeymoon, before the last couple of years, and we've gone 4 times in the past 2.5 years. Let me ask you this. Did you ever go to Disney World as a kid?
Yeah. That's,
okay.
Quite a bit. So.
Okay. What is your difference in fandom, difference of opinion in going as a kid, as an adult, and then now going as a father? Since you get to experience taking your little girl last year.
That was pretty incredible. That was unbelievable.
I would love to see the world because my kids were not old, but older. I mean, Ellie was 6, I think, the first time we took her, and it's different at that age than with someone that's Iris's age.
As I've gotten older, I think I've enjoyed it more, honestly. When I was a kid, I really liked it. I had a lot of fun, obviously, but it was like, you're with your parents, and you're like, okay, whatever. When I started going as an adult consistently, was when I really fell in love with it, and kind of got a little more braver and rode more rides I didn't ride than I rode as a kid. I used to be deathly afraid of Space Mountain, and now it's like I can't wait to ride Space Mountain. And then as a dad, it's completely different because it's like we had the moment where Iris met Winnie the Pooh, and she like runs up to him and gives this big hug, and I was like, all right, well, all this time this was worth it. No matter what happens the rest of this trip, that moment right there was worth it.
Yeah.
And just kind of seeing the world through her eyes, and like her seeing Minnie Mouse and all these characters was so unbelievably cool, man. It's something that like you asking me about it makes me happy, and like it puts a smile on my face. So
it's fun trying to see how they how the kids see it.
Yeah.
There's so much more wonder. I mean, first off, Disney does such a magical job of the presentation of the actual customer experience. They go literally all out for everything. And when we went on our anniversary, we were 25, so we were old enough, but we didn't experience all of the joy, shall we say, of Epcot and drinking around the world.
For sure.
We took a trip last year, just a weekend trip, my wife and I, and ditched the kids and screw it. Like we're old enough, they're able to handle a weekend without us. They were just not as if they were unsupervised, but and yeah, we spent most of our time at Epcot and just enjoying a lot of the Grand Marnier slushies that are over there by France. Those are the best drinks. The Viking coffee is incredible. I had best margarita I've ever had, and I can't remember, it's Diablo or something like that. It had cayenne pepper.
Yep.
Yeah. No, it was just at the
the little stand there. Yeah.
Little stand in front of the temple.
Yeah,
And they had elote, which street corn, which I absolutely love.
dude.
So good.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So, have to ask, can you rank your top 5 rides at Walt Disney World? And you can't wuss out. I had Cam Miller last week, and we were ranking Beatles songs because he's a huge fan, and he wussed out and just threw out an album for his favorite songs.
Okay, I won't go that far, because that is I get where he's coming from, but
it's like choosing the best favorite of your kids, and that depends on day to day. But
yeah, so let's see, favorite rides. Okay, now notice Tiana's Bayou Adventure is my favorite, just because I love the lead up to the drop. I love like the little teases about the drop, and then like when the last drop happens, formerly known as Splash Mountain, obviously. So that's one for me. 2, I'm gonna go Slinky Dog Dash. I love the speed of it, and it's my Hollywood Studios day. It's always my first ride. Sticking in Hollywood Studios, as you know, I'm a big Star Wars guy, and Rise of the Resistance is the coolest attraction experience ever. It's just,
I'm not a Star Wars guy, and that I thought that was really, really cool.
dude, just like you know, you're like in part of the thing. You have like the cast members who are playing the Resistance. I mean, the Empire bad guys are like, you know, really mean to you, and they neglect you, and like you feel like you're part of these. Like you open doors open, you see all the stormtroopers standing there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so awesome, man. So that's 3. For the sake of just since I was a kid, I always loved that Peter Pan's Flight. I know it's a little outdated, but I really, you know, I've always loved it, and it's something I got to do every Magic Kingdom trip. And then, 5 is tough, man. 5 is tough. I might have to go Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I know it's fairly new, but man, I had so much fun on it. I wish I'd gotten a better song.
Which did you have?
I got One Way or Another.
I actually just listened to that earlier today, and it popped into my head.
Yeah, and so that was pretty neat. I really liked that a lot. I know I left off Splash Mountain and things like that. I do very much love those. I do love Toy Story Mania because it's a lot of fun. But yeah, if I had to pick those 5 with a little time to think about, it'd be those.
I can't really rank mine, but I'll give you my 5 favorite in no particular order. I really like Big Thunder Mountain Railway. Mm-hmm. Like just it's just a basic. It's almost like Adventure Express in Kings Island, except a lot smoother and a lot. Obviously, the environment is a lot cooler. It's just a fun, ride. Have to put Tron, because that's probably the smoothest ride I have ever been on. It's not long, and that's my only detraction from it. Even getting with the Lightning Lane, where you're not waiting in line anywhere near as long. It's still, you're in line for 15-20 minutes, and it's like a 90-second ride, but it's still fun. It's the concept of it is cool, where it's like you're riding a bike. So that's definitely up there. I got to do Expedition Everest, just because the first time riding it, when you go up and all of a sudden the track is like, it shows where the track is missing. You're like, I know this is part of it, but what the hell are we, like, what's next? And then you go backwards for a bit, and that's just incredibly fun. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway.
Oh man, I should have put that on the list. Yeah, that's a good one.
Again, it's a very it's not an intense ride at all. It's pretty, like, I mean, it's a flat ride. I mean, it's, you're not there's no hills or anything. You're just going around a floor, kind of like the Nemo's Nemo ride. But I don't know, just I love the cartoon going on around it and everything, and it's just such a cool ride. That's usually the one that we hit first when we go to Hollywood Studios. What is that? 4, 5? Probably Guardians of the Galaxy. I think we've hit all 3 songs.
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to think. There's Disco Inferno, One Way, and what's the other?
There's Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. There's on September 21st, they played Earth, Wind, and Fire all day, every ride. That was cool.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
So I haven't heard. I wasn't there for Tears for Fears. I love me some Tears for Fears, so we didn't get that one. So, I do have to give honorable mention to Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't care for it, but it's my. Oh, apparently there's 6 songs. My wife is texting me from the other room.
Haunted Mansion's obviously up on the list too. That's a fun one.
Yeah, that's incredibly fun. I'm not a huge Pirates of the Caribbean fan, but my wife is, and we have to write it several times. Usually towards the end of the night, where you can literally just get off and get right back on. Spaceship Earth, I don't like that, but she loves it because there's like 5 times it's completely just stops and you have to hear the. But it's one that again we have to go and
My wife's the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. They're still right that I haven't gotten a chance to ride yet. I've never done Peter Pan's Flight. The lines are always really long, and I know it's not an intense ride or anything, but it's. Like that in the Snow White ride. I finally got to ride that last time.
Oh,
but the lines, yeah,
love it. So fun.
It's awesome, but the lines are always you can never even get a lightning lane because it's always have them shut down, or if you get them, by the time you click on it, like they're no longer there.
Yeah.
So that's a little frustrating, but it's Disney World. It's always packed, and it's still an awesome place. Okay. Best resorts. You don't even have to rank them here.
Ooh.
How many resorts? I know you've stayed there so many times, and you've stayed at a ton of resorts. How many different resorts have you been to?
Really, not a lot if you're in big picture, because I've had multiple stays at a couple of them. We kind of still stick to the budget resorts just because, single income household. But I'll tell you, and to be honest with you, I really like the budget resorts because of the decor and stuff like that. Like Art of Animation with the Lion King stuff is so cool.
Yeah.
We stayed at All Star Movies for our honeymoon. We stayed in the Toy Story wing. That was awesome. So cool. Pop Century is a great one, just because it's really fun. And we stayed at All Star Music this last time, which if you stay on any of the All Stars, they're all kind of shared ground, so you can walk around all of them and see everything.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. And then, Boardwalk is fun. It's beautiful. And it's just, and you're like right there. You can walk to Epcot. It's the best.
Yeah, that's Boardwalk is my favorite. We stayed there again when my wife and I went just for a long weekend, and we got it's a villa or whatever. It's its own little special. It was a 2-floor room. We had the club lounge access, which is just absolutely glorious.
Yeah.
I mean, almost 18 hours. You can go to it at any time and get food. You can eat an entire meal there. They have an awesome breakfast, snacks throughout the day, and then for dinner they have like appetizers and stuff that you can get filled up there without having to spend a dime because you already paid for it. Drinks, they've got beer and they've got wine, and yeah, that was the coolest. That was the best. The second one is kind of a disappointment. Was Contemporary. It's really, it was really neat. How you're right there, literally on the monorail goes through the middle of the damn hotel, and it's walkable to go to Magic Kingdom. But I don't know. It was still dated, even though like they'd updated the rooms recently. Everything was Incredibles themed, but the food options weren't great. I don't know. I was kind of disappointed.
Oh, man, I love Chef Mickey's. I love Chef Mickey's.
We didn't go to that because it was just waiting for it and everything, and I would have loved to have gone to it, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of a buffet type thing. So yeah. We loved the hell out of Pop Century. Although we stayed in the 50s, which was really far away from the.
It's a hike, yeah.
But the food there, like the food options there, they had an arcade. Really cool resort. And again, you're right there on the Skyliner, which is perfect. That on the other side of Art of Animation. So, and the last one that I was probably liked the least, and again, this was not a value resort. It was Yacht Club.
Yeah, I haven't done Yacht Club yet.
It's right there next to Beach Club. You've got that awesome pool and water park area that the kids loved, and we were only there for a day and a half. We got back from our cruise, and then spent a couple days back there. But the room was nice. It was a really beautiful room, but it was so far away from everything, and it was just such a long walk. Being at Boardwalk and being able to walk to Epcot didn't seem like it was that long. But then going from the far end of that resort and then just walking the path to Epcot just seemed like it took absolutely forever. And like there's so much walking to do anyway. Yeah. To throw that on top, it's like someone have just a pedal car that they can. Little pedal cart that they can drive us there. So, anyone said you want to stay at that you haven't been to yet?
Port Orleans for sure. Really want to do Port Orleans.
We were gonna do that, and then we switched up to Boardwalk.
Yeah, and I would like to do Floridian again. It's very pretty.
Yeah.
And so I would really like to experience that. But like Beach Club doesn't really fascinate me. Yacht Club doesn't really fascinate me. With, my travel agent work, I probably should stay at all of them, but that's pretty impossible to do. So. Right.
I think Wilderness Lodge would be pretty fun.
That would be. I do want to do that, especially during Christmas time.
Yeah. And I've never been to the All-Star ones. And like, again, those have their benefits. Like they have, so walkable and a lot of things around it, but the only downside is getting transportation to any of the parks. You have to bus it or drive. Animal Kingdom Lodge seems amazing.
Yeah.
That that's probably near the top, but again, those are not cheap. Those are up there with the Floridian and those that are there right across Bay Lake from Disney. Coronado Springs. Seems like a cool one. I don't know. Like I want to stay at all of them at some point, but obviously that's never going to happen because they're going to keep changing them out and putting new ones in. So, all right. Lastly, here, Saturday Night Live had their 50th anniversary show the week before they had their concert, and they had the show or the actual 50th anniversary show this weekend. What were your thoughts on that show? I haven't watched it, but I know they had so many people from their from the old cast that were on the show.
It was awesome, man. I really enjoyed it. I loved seeing like Eddie Murphy come back and do multiple characters. There was a sketch where Eddie Murphy played Tracy Morgan, standing right next to Tracy Morgan, and that was fantastic.
I did see that.
Yeah, and then. So that was great. Domingo bit is obviously always funny. It's been the biggest thing they've had this last year. And they kept it going by bringing multiple people in, like Molly Shannon, Martin Short, Bad Bunny, Pedro Pascal. So it was phenomenal. I thought that was really, really well done, man. I thought the performances were great. That was all the bits. Debbie Downer coming back was fantastic as a bartender. She was hilarious. So. Yeah, man. I thought they did a really great job paying tribute and also still finding a way to keep it fresh. It wasn't like the whole like Alec Baldwin mocking Trump thing the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm always for, don't be wrong, but I thought they did a good job.
Some people were not happy about Tom Hanks doing literally the same bit he did 9 years ago.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Right. And people were kind of losing their what over. I'm like, it's just the same skit that they did 9 years ago. It was funny then and it's funny now. Get over it.
Yeah, it's great.
Last question. When do you think is the best cast? For most people, it's, when they're 12, 13 years old. But what do you think is the best cast?
So I grew up with the Will Ferrell cast. People can say what they will about Will Ferrell movies. Will Ferrell on SNL was incredible. And I will never argue. I will never accept any argument otherwise. I thought that
I will not comment then.
That cast was I thought that cast was great. But the early '90s, Adam Sandler, Chris Farley era, Rob Schneider, and those guys. I mean, that's probably my favorite. Norm Macdonald doing Weekend Update. Yeah. That's probably my favorite.
That was, and I was born in '80, and that was the cast from probably 91 to basically led up, a lot of the cast led up right until the Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, Chris Kattan days.
Yep.
Can't forget Phil Hartman, and he was from the late 80s on, but he was the glue, and his characters, Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, was just absolutely perfect. Colon Blow cereal, like the advertisement for that. That's clearly, by far and away my favorite, with, Chris Farley, Chris Rock, even Dana Carvey and Mike Myers, like with Wayne's World and everything. The Chris Farley sketch, the interview show, is probably.
God. As podcasters, that's like right up our alley of just like
right.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? That was cool.
Yeah. Stupid.
Having him being interviewed or having him interview Paul McCartney, and I guess they made they're trying to say in the music performance when McCartney did the medley from Abbey Road with Carry That Weight at the end and Golden Slumbers, was kind of a nod to supposedly a nod or an homage to Chris Farley. So that'd be really cool if that were it.
Yeah, I like that.
So, Tim, I know you got to get going here because it's the middle of the day and some people actually do have to work here. So I think we will put a pin in it and wrap it up for this week. I really appreciate you coming on with me. Anything you want to promote? I mean, most people here, most people that would watch me know who you are, but.
Yeah, so you obviously know the shows and stuff, where to find me there. But hey, if you are looking, we talked about Disney and you want to stay at one of those resorts, please reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook at Tim the Travel Agent. I help out with these things. I make it easy. My services are free. So you don't have to pay any extra for me to do this for you. And I love doing it. So I would be more than happy to assist you with your family vacation.
Such a fantastic being able to get into that. Because again, with as much as you love Disney, I mean, obviously you can give a lot of your personal opinions on resorts or, just places around the area. So, again, Tim, I really appreciate you taking time.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
I'm looking forward to seeing where the show goes in the future. Again, like and subscribe, tell a friend. If you don't like it, tell me why. Again, I'm here to entertain the masses, and I want the masses to get bigger and more than 55, 60 people. If I'm boring, then let me know. Or if you have any guests or anything, let me know. It's I want to bring people back and make this show big and make it fun. So we'll be back next week with another fantastic guest. We have multiple irons in the fire, so not sure who I'm going to have with me, but it should be someone with some cool stuff to say. Maybe not as cool as Tim, but
who is?
Not everyone. Not everybody can be. Leave with the quote of the day, and this is apropos with Tim on here. It's from Walt Disney. We keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps us leading down new paths. And not only is that not only do I like that because it was Walt Disney, but that's especially in right now. Be curious, like ask questions and learn stuff. It's don't be closed-minded and just think outside the box and want to learn more. So outside of that, that's it for this week. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week.